enthusiastic tutor. Like I made mention earlier this week, I made it known to us that the classes will be taking a little bit of difference and some changes here and there. All right, like I said, I am on transit and I'm currently at Magodo. That's a very close, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty close to redemption camp. So this is what is obtainable for this week. So by next week when I return back to Abuja, we'll have things done. We'll return back to the way we do things. So I believe we should be able to cope, all right, as we commence classes. All right, I'm trusting that we should be able to cope as we commence classes. Okay, so with this being said, let's just straight into it. Okay, all right. Now in our today's class, we are taking, just a moment, trying to fix this. Very quickly. Okay, so in today's class, we'll be taking, as the thumbnail has it, we'll be taking the Western education in Nigeria. All right, Western education in Nigeria. That's EDU114. Okay, just a moment. I'm trying to quickly decipher and get to my note. Okay, just trying to quickly fix this. As a Western education, all right, in Nigeria. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to be taking, we've been talking about the traditional education in Nigeria so far, and let's not forget it's all about, okay, the history of traditional education in Nigeria, and we've talked about the varieties of traditional education, we've talked about Islamic school, and today we'll be taking our bearing from the advent of Western education in Nigeria. All right, so now the very first Christian missionary attempt in Nigeria, talking about Western education. All right, what are we talking about? We're talking about the education or the educational system that came in to Nigeria as a result of colonizers. All right, the traditional education is what we own, is what we do, that is tied to our religion, that is tied to our culture, norms, and folkways. All right, but the Western education came into Nigeria as a result of the intrusion of foreigners on Nigerian soil. All right, so in today's tutorial, we'll be getting to know more about this. Now, the first two system of education which are still relevant to today, all right, we have talked about that. We talked about the traditional education and the other one called Islamic education. Now, however, in 1842, Christian missionary entered into Nigeria. All right, in 1842, Christian missionaries entered into Nigeria. Please, you might need to slow down because I'm not reading the board. Okay, so you might need to slow down, all right, and pen things down. You can always rewind, you can always take it back. If you can't hear what I said, if you didn't get what I said, you can always take it back and go through this. So now, note, in 1842, the Christian missionary entered into Nigeria. Basically, that was not the first. Okay, it is also important to note that as early as 1472, the Portuguese merchants have visited Lagos in Benin. Now, these are 2 points here you want to take note of. 2 points. You want to take note of 1842, okay, Christian missionary entry into Nigeria, and also 1472. All right, the Portuguese merchants visited Lagos and Benin. Please note that. Now, by 1484, they have started trading activities with the people of Benin. Okay, so you can imagine they entered into Lagos and Benin in 1472, All right, and all they needed to do was done, and by 1485, the Portuguese started trading activities with the people of Benin. 1485. So, consequently, by 1555, the Catholic missionaries, through the influence of Portuguese trades, had established a primary school in Oba's palace for the children of the Oba. Don't forget, that is the monarch, right? Like the president. Then, when there was nothing like president, governor here and this, all right? So the traditional system then, it was ruled by Obas and some Bales and some chiefs, right? But the Oba is the head monarch, all right? Is the monarch and is in charge of everything. Nothing goes or happens without his approval, all right? So by 1515, the Catholic missionaries, through the influence of the Portuguese, all right, through that trade that the Portuguese started in Benin and Lagos, through that influence, the Catholic missionaries came in through that same trade effect and influence and established a primary school in Oba's palace, right? And this school was established for the children of the Oba and his chiefs, all right, as they were converted to Christians, all right, converted to Christianity. Now, please note this: the Portuguese came, all right, came in here, traded, all right. The Portuguese, they came in to trade. They were clear about what they wanted to do, all right. Now the missionaries came also. Don't forget, they are all Westerners, all right. They are all foreigners, all right. I beg your pardon. They are all foreigners. Now the Portuguese are foreigners on the soil of Africa. The missionaries were also foreigners, but these two different set of people came with two different, all right, agendas. For the Portuguese, it was trade, purely trade. For the missionaries, it was purely the gospel, propagating the gospel. All right. So everything that needed to be done, is it building of schools, is it teaching people how to read or write, they did it with joy and they did it gladly. In order to what? So that they can have people convert to Christianity. They can have people understand the word of God. They can have people read the word of God by themselves. Are we together? So the building of the school for the Oba's children and his chief was purely, all right, for the motive of preaching Christianity, all right, and converting people, Africans, Nigerians, to Christians. So with this being established, let's continue. Now, the aim of education. Are we together? The aim of education, then was to enable Africans participate effectively in commerce. That was for the Portuguese, all right, while for the missionaries it was basically Christianity. So now we have the reasons for European penetration into Nigeria in 19th century, right? The reasons behind, perhaps you might have asked or wonder, why did the Europeans, all right, penetrated Nigeria? What was the purpose? Why? All right. Now this is the reason. We're looking at some points now to clarify on that. So we have reasons for European penetration into Nigeria in the 19th century. Now we have one, industrial revolution. Okay, industrial revolution. Now the industrial revolution, which began in Europe in 18th century, okay, challenged them to look for markets to buy raw materials and sell their manufactured products. Africa became center in their hope for this transaction. They sent explorers to West Africa with Nigeria inclusive. All right. So the one major reason why the Europeans entered, all right, the European explored, all right, wandered their way into Africa is because they needed raw materials for their, all right, manufacturing companies. All right, they need raw materials for their factory. They couldn't get raw materials, available raw materials in large quantity. All right, so it challenged them to move out of their comfort zone, and Africa was discovered. Okay, unfortunately, they were able to find their way into Africa and find their way into the heart of the people, whether forcefully or unforcefully. Okay, they were able to lay their hand on the resources they required. Okay, so as it is said that Africa became center in their hope for the transaction of raw material. Now, between 1795 and 1850, great impact had been made in exploration of the continent of Africa by men like Mungo Park, all right, Clapperton, Landa brothers, and Heinrich Brath. Right, these are some great explorers that had explored, all right, Africa extensively. Okay, so we have the likes of Mungo Park, that's Mungo Park, Mungo, Mungo Park. We have Clapper, all right, Clapperton, that's Clapperton, Clapperton, and we have Landa brothers. Landa is spelled Lander, Landa brothers, and Heinrich Branch. All right, Heinrich is Heinrich, spelled Heinrich. Then we have Barth, Heinrich, right? Branch. So we have that and that. So also one of the reasons why is anti-transatlantic. Okay. Now after the law abolishing trade by British Parliament were seen to be no end to human trade even in West Africa. All right. Now the humanitarian in Europe then proposed that the surest way to end the trade, all right, as everything goes on, they expanded into trafficking human beings, all right, trading human beings like animals for slaves, okay, capturing people and selling them out for slavery, use them for hard labor work and what have you. Okay, so we have the advent, all right, the humanitarians, people that fight for the right and for the peace of mankind, right? For the right, for the peace, and for the respect and honor everyone. Now, the humanitarian in Europe then proposed that the surest way to end trade was to introduce alternative trade. Right? So a lot of things have been done, a lot of attempts have been made just put an end to this, but unfortunately, leads with all the effort and input came to almost nothing. So they thought about it. So one of the best ways to actually, all right, one of the best way to actually, all right. So we have here the humanitarians then proposed that the surest way to end trade was to introduce an alternative trade. So basically, if they refuse not to sell human beings again, so the best way to stop it is to provide another option instead of going to harvest human beings and use them as slaves. Okay, are we together? So we have that as that. Now, now let's look at some school of thought and what they have to say about the about what we are talking in essence, discussing in essence. Now, the first school of thought holds that the European industrialists, right, European industrialists worried that slave would affect the production. All right, so one of the reasons why they were not much they were not so eager to put an end to slave is because the industrialists, all right, industrialists became scared, became worried that if they let go of this trade, that slave trade would affect the production, okay, affect the production of raw materials, okay, in African continent, which trade needs their business. Okay, so we have that says here that the European industrialists were worried that slave trade would affect the production. Slave trade is more like getting a cheap trade to work, work so hard for you, only for you to pay him stipends. Okay, so we have that as that. Now, the second school of thought opines that the move was completely by some religion. Okay, the school of thought opines that the move was championed by some religion demonstrations in Europe. We believe that slave trade was normally wrong, right? Believe the second trade also believe that slave trade is also usually wrong. Okay, so we have that as that. Now let's continue. Permit me, so I'm so stressful lately. We just have to do something. Now we have on 24th September 1842. Okay, please take notes. On 24th September 1842, the Wesleyan Methodist Society sent Reverend Thomas Bridge Freeman, then superintendent of Wesley Methodist Society in Cape Town, to Badagry. Alright, so it came, Wesley came from Cape Town to Badagry in 1842. Now, Freeman happens to be the son of a black man, Negro, a black man, which is his father, and an English mother. Right, I'm talking about Freeman here. Now, he accomplished by Mr. and he was accompanied, don't forget, he came all the way from Cape Town, okay, to Badagry, and he was accompanied by Mr. and Mrs. William the Grafts, okay, who later established primary school in Badagry too as well. So now, Mr. William the Graft was also an African born at Cape Town. Okay, that's Mr. William the Gift. Okay, so we have that as that. Now, in 1843 now, Samuel Ajayi Crowder, Reverend C.A., okay, Golma, and Henry Townsend, all from the Church Missionary Society, arrived at Badagry for missionary work. Now, please note this point. In 1843, Reverend Samuel Ajayi Crowder, and some persons arrived at Badagry for missionary work. So we have that as that. So before we call it out for today, my mind is set. I know that we're going to be talking about some certain things like some of the Now, don't forget that after the slave trade was abolished, a lot of trade had to be freed. A lot of slaves had to be freed. So some of them stayed back, some of them traveled. So some of them that traveled that were Yorubas came home after so much years, and they began to tell their stories about what they experienced, about going, the experiences about coming. So this news spread. Alright, the news of how the Christian masters of religious people always try to save, to fight the government just for them to give them freedom. Okay, so we have then all this news started spreading like a wildfire, and between 1884 to 1964, various missionary bodies have made their presence felt, especially within Lagos, Calabar, Cross River. Okay, so we have that as that. So now next class. Now, please note that some of these missionaries, all right, society that were created, some of them, that's by okay. Now, various missionaries bodies have made their presence felt, especially within Lagos, Calabar, Cross River, the Nigeria area. Now, the missionary bodies are some of the missionary bodies are Wesleyan Methodist Society, Baptist Mission. Okay, we have Presbyterian Church of Scotland. We have Roman Catholic Mission. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. On this note, call it out for today. Please, please let's just try and bear with us for a week, and hopefully next week everything will return back to normal, and we'll enjoy our classes as we wish to enjoy it. Do have a wonderful afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you subsequent to that. Bye bye.